Hey there, super friends. This is Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Tuesday, February 20th, 2018. I've added the social media stuff to the description, which looks like it pushes fine to YouTube. It's viewable on iHeartRadio. Doesn't push to SoundCloud, but I'm just going to update like the channel description or whatever there. And it won't push to either Twitter or Facebook, but if you're connected with us on one of those, then that should be fine. So, hopefully that's the end of doing that spiel, or even mentioning it. So, let's talk about Shilling for the man, yo. Alright, yeah, that was super awkward. It's fine, though. It's fine. Alright, so MTG Oh Traders did a video. Bet you all didn't expect me to talk about that. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you know that I have a lot of love for those guys, and I watch a lot of the content they put out. I've grown really attached to Terran specifically, like as a personality for their content creation. Terran did a video today talking about MTG Online. I feel Terran really enjoys MTG Online. And, okay, yeah, he does give a shout out to buying cards from MTG Oh Traders, because aside from content creation, MTG Oh Traders does, in fact, as their name would imply, trade in MTGO cards and tickets and whatnot. So, you know, of course, the umbrella he works under, they're interested in selling cards, but he also does a ton of streaming. In his streams, he talks about other games he's played, like either deck testing before going live in the stream, or, you know, like, oh yeah, this one time I was playing this deck or whatever. He obviously plays a lot of MTGO. And he does open the video talking about how, about how the LGSs in his area pretty much only hold weekend events, so if he wants to play Magic during the week, he doesn't have a lot of options, so he plays MTGO. And his video definitely is very pro MTGO. Don't suppose he could have just cleared the lane. It's very pro MTGO. You can tell that, dude, can you like fucking pass me or back the fuck off? One of the two. Thank you. Yeah, so he's really into MTGO, and he talked about a lot of the positive points and glossed over some of the negative points. One thing he didn't mention, now, again, if you haven't been with me for a while, you may not know that I had a brief foray into MTGO, did some like new Phantom drafts and that kind of crap, but I didn't play a lot with it. And a lot of the reason is I have a lot of money invested in my paper Magic collection. I spend a lot of money buying cards and playing in paper. I'm just not sure I'm at this point willing to take on the cash sink of then playing digitally too. Maybe if I was really looking to up my gameplay, maybe once we get a new rig to handle all of our video stuff and streaming becomes feasible, yeah, maybe then I'll be more invested in it because there will be some return. But for now, I don't really do much with it. However, I do follow like every single pro player I've ever mentioned on Twitter. And every time there's an online PPT Queue or that, what is it, the MCOS tournament? or something like that. It's some acronym everybody refers to it as, and it's some like huge tournament for like pro points or something. I don't know. I don't really know what the deal with it is. I just know to the players, like, you have to accrue special event tickets to get in it. It's kind of like the online Pro Tour. Maybe you win an invite to like Worlds or something along those lines. I don't know. All I know is among high-level players, it's big at BFD. And you can always tell on Twitter when one of these events is happening, because there's at least one, usually many, posts of, and software shit the bed on me during my winning in game. Great. So MTGO does have some difficulties. Oh, wrong window. There are some bugs, and Taryn does mention them, but he does kind of gloss over them because he's very passionate about MTGO. And of course, one of the comments is just shill. Alright, look, I talk about how once we start doing content and everything, and even here, if you have counterpoints to things I'm saying, if you want to engage in a discussion with me, I offer up many ways to contact us. If you have suggestions for improvement other than you should try not recording this while driving, because that's kind of the whole point of the cast. I'm sorry. Feel free to reach out. But if your feedback is, bitch, I'm not going to engage with it. There's really nothing productive there. That's just kind of how I feel about it. But, yep, people feel the need to put it out there. And I feel bad because Taryn seems like just one of the nicest guys ever. He did, share a screenshot of the YouTube comment on Twitter. And I think his video was good. I do fully admit that it was very weighted towards the positives because he's passionate about it. I don't think it was done to earn the grace of WotC. And the reason I'm talking about this is, I mentioned being a big fan of MTG Oh Traders. I mentioned being a fan of different pros that I'm a fan of the SCG series, of my local shop. And I usually try to mention, when talking about these things, that I'm in no way affiliated with these places. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not an employee at the shop. I'm just happy about these things, and so I'm sharing them with all of you. It's like when I talk about sleeves that I like. It's not because I have some kind of relationship or I'm shilling for that company. It's because I'm like, okay, I finally found sleeves that don't suck. By the way, I haven't yet. I want to check out the VCW sleeves. Jim Davis talks them up. Jim Davis is also on Team VCW, though. So, that's... As far as, if Taryn does a video on buying cards from MTG Oh Traders and how it's so awesome and it's so easy. Alright, at that point I can say, yeah, reserve some skepticism because he's talking about the company that sponsors his creation. His content creation. So it is definitely in his best interest to talk them up and maybe minimize the kind of downsides. By the way, I have bought cards from MTG Oh Traders, and I can attest it is incredibly easy. I really, I had gone through Saffron Olive's tutorial on setting up MTGO and everything. Decided to give it a try. Picked out a cheap deck list that I like. It was a bad deck list. It was a very, very bad deck list. It was, a budget build and everything. Went and dropped the list into the trader site. they built the cart. I did have to take out cards that I had already owned from like the welcome pack. But yeah, no, they're super easy to use. I do recommend using them. Card Kingdom, I think you can also buy digital cards from. I don't know. I haven't done it. I bought from MTG Oh Traders because the first streamer that I really paid any attention to was Jolt from MTG Oh Traders, and he was very nice to me when we interacted. So if I'm going to buy cards online, sure, might as well be from, the people I had a positive interaction with. So I won't say that buying cards on Card Kingdom is bad or that their prices are bad or anything else because I've never done it. I won't say that MTG Oh Traders is better than any other dispensary because they're the only ones I worked with, so I can't, quantitatively qualify who's best. They're best out of all the ones I've worked with, being one. But this notion of, you're talking favorably about something, you're a shill for that company. No, I have an opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it. It's like Mana Traders. I would love to know more about their operation. I've mentioned before, I try to tune into Todd Stevens' stream when I can. And, he's sponsored by Mana Traders, so he talks them up. Like, usually at some point when he's switching decks in stream, he's like, I could go buy all these cards, but look, I'm just going to go to the Mana Trader site, and because I have a subscription, it does a little commercial for me. He makes it very clear he's sponsored by them. But him saying that they're so awesome and easy to work with, he has a vested interest. I would like to hear more from like an independent user of Mana Traders that may be more willing to say things like, you pay the subscription fee and everything, but let's evaluate the value of it. Or, this is great, except, from 4 to 6 p.m. on Thursday, good fucking luck, because they're swamped. They don't have the bandwidth to handle their traffic. Just anything like that. Because it's in Todd Stevens' best interest to not say negative things about Mana Traders. And I'm not saying that, he's scummy or whatever for doing that. No, he makes it clear that he's sponsored by them. And one has to be aware when somebody says, by the way, I'm sponsored by these people. What that implicitly means is I'm going to talk about all their positive stuff and probably not so much about the negative stuff. Take Philip DeFranco. If you haven't been here very long at all, I'm a huge fan of Philip DeFranco. I love that guy. He gets sponsors on his videos and everything. And Postmates is one of those delivery services where everywhere becomes delivery for you. And when they sponsor him, he talks up. He's like, and you can go to, this website and enter in this code and get, $100 delivery credit. Give it a try. But he doesn't follow that up with, by the way, did you see that story where, the Postmates delivery driver, kept that woman's phone number and used it to harass and stalk her, or whatever else. I kind of recall reading an article along those lines. I don't know if it was Postmates specifically, because there are other services like that. I don't know all of them. Or you know what? It might have even been like Lyft or something. Just one of those services where it's basically like, we have a share service where we don't have employees. We have independent contractors that agree to be on call during these hours and get pinged to say, go pick the drunk girl up from the bar and taxi her home, or run to Starbucks and bring you coffee, whatever. And of course, these people have to have a way to contact the recipient, I'm pretty sure. Dude, find your gas pedal. Oh my, Alright, that one was my bad. I should have just sped up. I was trying to be nice and... Anyway. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there was definitely some article fairly recently about some service like that just throws out stuff to people and says, hey, go do this. We will pay you. Here's the contact information, so that they can contact the recipient or the person who ordered the ride or whatever in case there's some kind of issue. And yeah, I mean, is it really any surprise that when given direct contact information, somebody that says, hey, I feel like we had a connection over me handing you the pizza box, want to go out, keeps that number and does shit like that? Like, yeah, I'm sure it happens. But he doesn't talk about that as soon as he's done pumping Postmates. No, he just talks about his ad spiel for them, but he also makes it very clear he's sponsored by them. Just like when Todd Stevens goes on his bit concerning Mana Traders, he specifically mentions that they're a sponsor. But again, something people need to keep in mind, that when somebody says, oh yeah, we're sponsored by these people, it does implicitly mean you're going to get the most positive spin. Right? I'm sure we're all aware of that. So, but I'd love to know more about how Mana Trader works and see a more objective review of them. So if any of you out there use Mana Traders and want to hook me up with some intel, that'd be great. But again, you know, like wanting to check out Team VCW Sleeves. I don't think my shop carries VCW. The other local store may. I'll check next time we're in. But otherwise, you know, I'm going to have to buy them online, pay to have them shipped and everything. Which is fine. Ooh, I should see if I can find them on Amazon. That would be great. But I want to check out the sleeves and everything. But when I get them and I talk about them, either that they're great or they suck, you know, keep in mind, I'm not affiliated with them at all. I'm just going to tell you what my thoughts are on it. And if it's a positive feedback, that doesn't make me a shill. That means that I had a good experience. Goes back to shaming each other over stupid fucking shit. But 'tis the way of things. There's something else I saw. Oh, Arbor Dryad. Dryad Arbor. Arbor Dryad? Dryad Arbor. It's definitely Dryad Arbor. The forest that is also a 1/1 creature. Let's talk about that. At GP Leon, apparently there was an issue with a featured match, which is probably why this has gotten as much press as it has. So the From the Vault version of Dryad Arbor, which is not the cheapest printing, as is the case with Jace the Mind Sculptor. It is, however, a much cheaper, actually, foil printing than the foil from... Fuck. I just looked this up today. What the fuck set was that? Whatever set Dryad Arbor originally came out in. Because it's only been printed once. So it is cheaper to buy a matte Dryad Arbor than the From the Vault. However, if you're foiling out a deck, it's cheaper to buy the From the Vault foil than... I want to say it's like Time Spiral or something. It's one of the sets with the weird fucking borders. You know, like the ones that Horizon Canopy and Grove of the Burned Willows have, the original printings. Those bizarre-ass borders. So, in an on-camera match, Nassif, I don't remember his first name. I want to say it's like Gabriel, but that That's probably not correct. Anyway, he swings into his opponent thinking he has the win. His opponent moves his Dryad Arbor, or apparently had his Dryad Arbor back with his lands. I don't know. I haven't even watched the clip, to be honest with you. And honestly, this specific occurrence really doesn't matter to me. So, can we all just be honest about the fact that the From the Vault printing of Dryad Arbor should have never been laid out like that, because it does look identical to a basic forest, especially across the table in a sleeve. Now, why the fuck you playing with an ugly ass foiled basic forest instead of, like, you know, a full art basic or whatever, or an unglued, unstable, unhinged, whatever. But some people legitimately foil out their entire deck, including those couple basic lands, and they don't even get the super sexy full art lands. They just get some foil basic lands. So can we just all agree that this card should have never been laid out this way? Like, that there's some art director out there that should be ashamed of themselves. This card, I mean, just look up the From the Vault Dryad Arbor, and you'll see what I mean. Yes, in the type, it's like legendary forest creature or something like that. The type is different than basic land. It's got the little 1/1 power and toughness box in the bottom corner. And the name on it, of course, is different. But there's no casting cost. If you're not familiar with Dryad Arbor, it is the only card like this, as far as I'm aware, that it is both a forest and a creature. You play it like a land. It does not have a casting cost. It cannot tap for mana the turn it enters the battlefield, because it is affected by summoning sickness, because it is a creature. And it does not have haste. Now, the reason this became pertinent, this guy was playing Boggles and had a Boggle, you know, beefed up with enchantments, because that's how Boggles works. And when Nassif attacked in, he was attacking with a creature with menace. So, based on his understanding of the board state, the only creature his opponent controlled was the Boggle, because somehow he missed this Dryad Arbor. Now, personally, I feel like nobody should be playing with this fucking copy of this card. But it is a tournament legal copy. This has created quite a buzz over whether they should be able to ban specific printings of cards. And on one hand, I do see a good argument for banning this specific printing of Dryad Arbor. On the other hand, I do see setting a precedent for banning specific printings of cards possibly becoming problematic. However, honestly, now the only From the Vault cards I've ever handled is the From the Vault Angel set that we bought for my collection, because I collect angels. Don't ask. It's just a weird me thing. We bought 4 copies of the From the Vault that was like right after that has Dark Depths and Giate and I want to say Divining Top's in there, but maybe not. Might have been for Giate and Dark Depths, and of course the Merit Lodge token that we bought. We bought 4 of them. And we had to pay overprice on 2 of them because our shop allows pre-orders for 1 per customer. They count husband and I as 2 separate customers. But we had to pay a little more for the other 2 because that was outside of that arrangement. And it was one of the nice things about the From the Vault sets is when they put good shit in there. Yes, game stores will sell it for above MSRP. There are certain price gouging practices with game stores that I can't get behind. There are others that I don't think people understand how hard it is to run a game store profitably. And that, based on my understanding, that's kind of the perception of the From the Vault sets, is they're kind of a gift to game stores. Where it's like, yeah, okay, there's an MSRP, but only LGSs get them. You know, you have to be part of the Wizards Play Network and everything. And how many you get or can order is dependent on what WPN status you have and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of price them as you will. So when they put really good stuff in them to increase the value of them, game stores get to make a nice profit off of them to help keep the store going. In any case, we have not opened any of them. And until we would have need for Dark Depths or Jiete, they'll likely continue to sit on the shelf. You know, the From the Vault Angels, because we bought two, each of us bought one. The one got cracked open and I put it in my Angel collection. The other one is still sealed in box. And, I mean, that one's doubled from what we paid for it. But the From the Vault Angels card specifically, one, they try to give themselves a hug all the time. Like, they bow so bad. Two, I am told that I'm crazy on this score, but they feel different from a regular Magic card. Like, they almost feel thicker. And maybe I am crazy, whatever. I don't care. They feel funny. But the bowing issue specifically, I kind of feel like may leave enough room open in the vast doorway of doubt for a marked card scenario. But also, if you rule that From the Vault cards are unplayable, this takes away Game Store's ability to sell them profitably. In any case, so that I definitely see a double-sided argument there. But perhaps the more correct approach to this is to make it a requirement that either Dryad Arbor be put with creatures instead of with lands, or that it be required that players announce when they're playing non-basic lands. I've seen a lot of different suggestions for how to prevent this kind of situation from happening that move around that banning that printing. I've also seen plenty of people saying that no, there's nothing wrong with what happened. Now, again, as far as this specific incident, I didn't watch the clip, so I don't know. And assuming that when a miscommunication over this specific card occurs, that the owner of the card is trying to be sneaky, I don't think that's really fair either. Just sometimes communication between two players at an event just isn't great. I think it is a confusing card, and I've seen enough players comment on things like this saying, you know, trying to mislead your opponent without outright lying, you know, outright violating the rules is a tactic. Man, if that's how you're scamming wins, ugh. And I don't mean like choosing to not play your land to bluff a removal spell or a counter spell, but I mean things like, well, I'm just going to put this Dryad Arbor over here with my basic forest and not really say anything when I play it. And if my opponent chooses to not inspect every single forest I play. Now, granted, if you're playing against Boggles, is a known card in that deck. So you should be aware of every forest being played and, you know, be on the lookout for this. But I feel like there is definitely some room for discussion on what is the responsibility of the owner of the card and what is the responsibility of the opponent as far as making sure that they understand the board state. Because I think there are, like, do you consider it okay if your opponent has a Chalice on 1 and you play out a 1-drop? Full well knowing that there's a Chalice on 1, but you're hoping that they kind of forget about it or don't realize that the casting cost of what you just threw down is only 1. Do you think that's okay? I feel like if that's how you're playing, like, you just need to get better at the game. If you have to depend on shady actions like that, I feel like this may not be a hobby for you. And I'm not trying to sound judgmental there or anything like, well, you should enjoy the game the way I enjoy the game, or not at all. I just feel like maneuvers like that, like, it's one thing when you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just cast out my Chromatic Star and they have a challenge someone, and like, you know, for some reason brain just doesn't make the connection. But when you're gonna play it out, set it down there and kind of wait and see if they react, and if they don't, move right along, despite being well aware of the chalice, man, you want to talk about things that are kind of cause judges to have more hands-on role and more rules concerning this shit. It's plays like that, you know, exploiting an opponent's trust, basically. Yeah, this is a weird issue, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it, and I would love to hear how any of you feel about it. Like I said, that printing is particularly bad because it seriously, from a glance, like a cursory look, it does look just like a basic forest. Yes, there are differences. I mean, obviously. But, you know, next time you're at F&M, at the end of your match, you guys walk away from the table, try to think back to yourself what all their basic lands looked like which arts they had. As far as, and I don't mean full arts, I mean just regular basic lands. And, or, you know, when, well, I guess this isn't a thing anymore because we don't have the flashy lands anymore where you have to show them, what do we call them, battle lands or whatever? No, that's where you had to have two. There are lands that come in tapped unless you reveal one of the land types from your hand. They were in the Shadows over Innistrad block. It's a shame we're not still there, because then I would challenge you and say, when your opponent reveals that and puts it back in their hand, ask yourself what all you can remember about the land they showed you. You know, because I feel like people who are like, I mean, it clearly has power and toughness box and everything else, and it there's argument that there's a lot of argument concerning this specific scenario, and I'm not terribly concerned about this specific scenario. Instead of saying, well, what did his opponent do wrong, or what did he do wrong, how about let's focus on, if you're playing one of these from the Vault Dryad Arbors, how do you play it? Do you put it with the rest of your forest, or do you set it off as its own pile in your land area so that it's clear? Or do you put it up with the creatures? Or do you just announce it when you play it? Or do you try to get it out there in such a way that your opponent may not realize that it's a Dryad Arbor? That's what I want to know. But I'm actually at my hairstylist, finally getting a hair trim and eyebrow waxing, which is really good because I desperately need them. As always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.